So this here is a video on how to paint the Black Legion Chaos Space Marines from the ShadowSpear set. So we've just finished them all up here. And we've got the leader, and we've got the heavy, and then we've got the other guys with the bolt rifles. So everybody's done here with the plasma glow and the plasma pistols. If you like these and you're interested in painting yours up to look similar, then just stay tuned and we will show you how we got here from where we started. So this is going to be a video on how to paint Black Legion Chaos Space Marines. Now, first off, just to be completely honest, this is the set from ShadowSpear. As you can see, the box literally right there. The only problem is ShadowSpear comes with 4 close combat Marines, and I have absolutely no interest in playing close combat now that we got this really great bolter roll. So what I ended up doing was I swapped out the 4 close combats, and we'll deal with them at another time, and I swapped them for 4 of the Drazzt Ravagers from the Dark Vengeance box from 2014. I just had kicking around, I never did paint them. So these guys are roughly about the same shape. They're a little bit more detailed. The bolters look very similar. So because of that, they should be able to swap in quite nicely. So we're going to paint them, and that way I have an entire squadron of long-range guys with the exception of the leader. On the leader, I took a spike from one of the Rhino kits and just put it on his back just so he stands out a little bit better. So between all of that, we're going to paint all this up as fully Black Legion, and then we're going to kind of go from there. So the first thing to keep in mind is that we've already primed these guys, and we've done it with the Rattle Can of Chaos Black paint. So that's been done. So having the Chaos Black aside, we're ready to move on to the next step. So our first step in painting our Chaos Space Marine is to do the trim. So what we're going to start with is some Retributor armor. We've got quite a bit left after doing our Venom Crawler. So we'll grab one of these boys, and with a detail brush, we're just going to start doing up the trim. And as you can see here, he lights up quite nicely. We've mixed it with water, so it's a little bit runny. It may take 2 coats. And you don't have to be super neat, same as the Venom Crawler. What we're going to do is we're going to come back later and tidy up all the black once all the other details are done. And we'll do these up and then we'll meet back here. This is probably the hardest step because there's so much trim and so much detail. So this is what the models look like when they're finished painting with gold. To take a look at one in particular, we did the display piece on the front, which is the 8-sided star. We did the pauldron as well, and the trim. We did any place on the helmet that's going to be gold. Other trim, the gauntlet edge, the top of the legs, which are kind of hidden in amongst this cloth, but there are some traces. The shin guards as well. On the back side, we did the same thing. Tops of the legs and the shin guards. All of the backpacks are different. They all seem to have, or many of them seem to have these bird claws, so we did those, ending just where the ball end begins here. The backpacks are all different. This one had a gold trim here. The heavy weapon did not, but it did have this casing and the 2 balls on the ends. The leader's backpack had a skull and a little bit of a trim here around it, once again with the claws. This one had the trim similar to the other, and this one just had the eye and the talons as well. We also did any part of the bottom of the cloth that had any metallic jewelry or things like that. So finishing up with the gold, our next step is going to be to do all of the metallic silver type metal pieces. So we're going to use lead belcher in this case. And looking at the design in the book, it looks like the guns are going to get painted with the lead belcher. As well as the cartridges, any chains. And then any other vents or fans in the backpack. throw some silver inside of the vent here, as well as the other. Once again, we don't have to be neat yet because we're going to come back and do the black afterwards. There's a belt buckle and some grenades here, so we'll do those. And he's holding a sword, so we'll do the sword as well. And then as well as all of the rebreather tubes. Like so. So we're going to do all the other Marines just to see. There's a small pistol in the holster. And we'll probably do the inside of where the armor meets. So we'll do the other ones and then we'll meet back here again. So this is what it looks like after we finished our metal. And now what we're going to do is move on to all of the leather work. So all of the holsters and satchels and things like that that they're holding, as well as the handle of the axe and anything like that. So what we're going to use is Rhinox hide. And we're just going to take a really watered down layer so it's nice and smooth. And we're just going to do the whole holster there. Just like that. What we're going to do now is work on the horns and the bones and the skulls. And we're going to do that with Rackard flesh for a base. So we'll take this fella here. And a really good runny layer of Rackard flesh. Just like so, just a couple of good watered down layers. And what we'll do is we'll do the rest of the guys, we'll do a second coat, and we'll bring meat back here. So this is what we look like after we finished the bone work. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just add the red color, and we're going to use a little bit of Mephiston red. And what we're going to do with that is we're just going to do all of the cloth pieces. So there's some here, and some here. In fact, pretty much every unit has some of the cloth pieces, as well as the hair on the leader. So we'll do that. So with a little bit of watered down paint, all we're going to do is very carefully color in all these cloths. You're going to want to do 2 thin coats on that, because as you can see there, that's not a whole lot of coverage. And don't forget the back side as well. So with our Mephiston red finished, that finishes all our base colors. So now what we're going to move on is to shading. So shading, we're going to start with Agrax Earthshade. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to do all of the gold trim, as well as all the bone, and all of the leathers, as well as the swords I added to these guys. So all the leather backpacks, things like that. The only things we're not going to do are the 2 heads of the guys with no helmets. We're not going to shade those with Agrax Earthshade at all. So with a nice shade brush, we're just going to add that and have it sink into all of the recesses. And make the details come out. Something like that. So we'll do that, and we'll do the rest of them now. So now that the Agrax Earthshade is finished, what we're going to do is take on those 2 heads that we avoided earlier. And what we're going to do that is with some Reclin Flesh Shade. And then that's going to add a little bit of skin tone to it. As well, there are some marks of chaos on the foreheads. This will help them stand out. Just like that, because we want to try to bring those marks out. We may even dry brush them later. So with the Reclin Flesh Shade finished, and all of the heads finished, what we're going to do now is take some Nuln Oil, and with that we are going to do all of the metal guns, basically all of the metal that we've done so far. We'll get the chainmail as well, being very specific. Not to leak too much over onto the other stuff. So we'll do the rest of them and then we'll bring them back here for the next step. So with the Nuln Oil finished, what we're going to do now is shade just the cloths. So with that, we're going to use a little bit of Carlsberg Crimson. And we're just going to add some to anything we've done with Mephiston Red earlier. And we're just going to do that to the rest of them. So now that we've done all of our shades and we're all finished those, we're going to start doing the highlights and bringing the color back up. So what we're going to start with is the red. So we're going to take a little bit of Evil Sun Scarlet, which is a shade lighter than Mephiston Red. And what we're going to do is just put a little bit of a highlight dry edge layer on there. Like so. We'll do the inside as well. Doesn't need as much highlights because it is in the dark. And that's good. We're going to do the other ones and then come back again. So now that we're finished with our highlight layer of Evil Sun Scarlet, we're going to start highlighting the metal, and we're going to do that with Ironbreaker. So we'll take one of these guys, for example, and with our fine detail brush, we're just going to lightly bring out some of that metal color. Just like so. Same on the chain work here. And you just want to lightly brush it on because you do want some of the dim shade that we put on a few minutes ago. And any of the chain work that's there. So like that, and then we'll be back to do the other guys. So now that we're finished our highlight layer of Ironbreaker, what we're going to do is add a highlight layer of Gorthor Brown over all of the leather. So all of the brown that we did earlier. And just a slight dry brush like so. Something like that. So we'll do that on the rest of them and we'll meet back here again. Finally, we're going to take a highlight of Screaming Skull to put over the top of that last highlight layer and really light up just the bare parts of those skulls like so. just like that. Nice and bright. So we'll do all the rest of them and we'll be back again. All right, now that we've done pretty much all the other highlight layers, the only one that's remaining is the gold, which is the hardest one, but it's also the one that'll brighten up the models the most. So what we're going to do is use a little bit of Liberator Gold, and we're going to dry brush that right onto our models. And this is the one we're going to be the most careful with, because we've got everything else pretty much finished. So in a lot of cases, this is going to be like a directed edge layer more than anything else, but like so. And then what we're going to do is do all the rest of them and then meet back here again. So now that we finished our highlight of gold, and we have made a bit of a mess on the black, which is fine because that's what we're going to fix. We took the time to do a very dry layer of Kislev flesh just over the heads. And that just brought out a bit more of the detail here. And then I also took a little bit of Reeklin Flesh Shade and washed the end of the heavy weapons to get that scorched look. And I did the same with the Champion's plasma weapon. Pushing the redder color down toward the end here. What we're going to do is start cleaning up a model with Abaddon black. And you want a very fine detailed brush, because this is the one that's going to make the models look fantastic. So we used a very watered down layer. And the shade of Agrag's Earth Shade that we did earlier highlights exactly how far we have to color. Like that there. So we're going to do the rest of the model as well as all the other models and meet back here afterwards. So as you can see, our models are coming along really, really nicely. What we're going to do now is focus on there's a few little terrain pieces that are here. The leader's standing on a stone and the heavy weapon is standing on a stone. So we're going to do those now, and they're going to take a base coat of Eshin Gray. I know it's a layer paint, but we're going to use it as a base coat for now while we're waiting for everything else to dry. And we're going to put that on the stones underneath the feet. So we're just going to finish up the stones here with the Eshin Gray. Just like that. So we still have our Eshin Gray out. What we're going to do is take a really dry brush of that and just add a little bit on the ball on the center of the shoulder pad there, just to lighten it up a little and add a little bit more color. There's also a skull in there at the foot of the base there. So what we're going to use is a base of Rackard flesh, an Agrex Earthshade Wash, and then a Screaming Skull layer over the top to make that come out, same as we did with the skulls on the back of the champion. So we'll do that now as well. We'll meet back here. Now we're going to take just a little bit of Jokero orange, but basically just any sort of shade of reddish orange that we can find, and we're just going to dry brush. This Chaos mark. We'll take a little bit of our Evil Sun Scarlet that we had earlier today. And we're going to dry brush that over the orange. Then what we're going to do is take a little bit of Troll Slayer orange and go over the central eye, the Eye of Horus, or Eye of Terror, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to do that one in orange on all the models. Waiting for our orange to dry. What we're going to do is take a little bit of Retributor Armor, which is a good solid bright gold color, and we're going to go over the designs on all of the guns. Just to make them stand out like that. So you're looking for skulls, you're looking for gaping mouths, which we have here, chaos signs like this one here too. Want that, so we'll go through the whole army and touch of all the guns too. So still putting in our detail layer, what we did is we took the heavy and his backpack here. What we did is took a little bit of Balthazar Gold, which is a brass base, and I just did these ammo clips that are here and the front as well. And then we took some Stormhost Silver, and we did a little bit of trim right here, as well as a little bit of trim on either side of these handles. And then on any place that has a gem that's too small to put any detail in, we put a little bit of Stormhost Silver just on that. We'll light that up with some technical paint in a few minutes. Now just match the box art. I'm going to do the inside of those handles with brown. Mostly we're just adding any extra details. Also to match the box art, this wire that's here is actually red, so I'm just going to change it to red. Just because I find that adds a bit more color on the back. There's also a button here, I'm going to make that red as well. Like so. Now with just a little bit of Mephiston red, what we're going to do is, with a very fine detail brush, pick out the eyes. Just like that. We'll do the other ones. So now what we're going to do for more detail is we're going to take a little bit of Uriel yellow, And a very, very, very fine detail brush. Put us in a yellow spot on each of those little eyes. Just like so. While we're waiting for that yellow to dry, what we're going to do is a little bit of this Spirit Stone Red Technical Paint and a very fine brush again. And any of those stones that we did silver earlier, I'm going to color them that red there. So we'll do that to the other ones. With the Spirit Stone Red, we're also going to get the front eyes of the Havoc here. Just like that. Just like that there. So now that the yellow's finally dry, we're going to take a very, very fine brush and just put one vertical strip of Abaddon black right up the center there. Just like that. I'll do the same on the other shoulder on this fella right here. Like so. So now we're going to move over to just the plasma weapons, which is one of the only things we have left. We're going to use a little bit of Cabalite green, but really any darker green would work. What I want to do is color in all of the plasma coil like that. Once the Cabalite green is done, what we're going to do is take a little bit of Nuln Oil shade and shade that in pretty generously because we want to get those lines back. So now the Nuln Oil is dry, what we're going to do is take a little bit of Moot green. Basically all we want is a very, very bright green, brighter than the base we did. And then what we're going to do is do vertical lines. Just like that. So our plasma gun now looks like this. And what we're going to do now is take a little bit of Nurgling green. It's about the lightest green I have. I'm going to do the corners. Something like that. We'll do the same for the pistol. So one of the spots we actually missed is the rocks that they're standing on. We did them with Eshin Gray, but we also wanted to put a dry brush of Dawnstone on them. So we're going to do that right now. So we'll do the other one, and then we'll be ready to base them as well. So we've got our characters based now, and we've got sand on the base. So we only have a couple of steps left. The first thing we're going to do is take some technical art coat, and I want to put it over the eye gem that we painted in the center of the chest. So these are our finished units. I think they came out half decently well. I'm hoping yours came out just as similar. If you found this video helpful, feel free to share it or like it. Or if you are interested in more of these videos, feel free to subscribe to the channel. We're going to try our best to do most of the ShadowSpear as soon as we can. But hopefully this helped, and we will see you at the next time.